Wife of a Norwegian billionaire has been missing since October 31st, 2018. She is presumed kidnapped and/or killed. There was a ransom note left at the crime scene demanding 9 million euros in cryptocurrency. What happened to Anne Elizabeth Hagen? Anne Elizabeth Falkevik Hagen, 68, is the wife of Norwegian billionaire Tom Hagen, an investor and co-founder of a company called Elkraft. They married young, only 19 years old, before Hagen made his fortune. Although Hagen is now one of Norway's richest people, the 172nd richest according to financial magazine Kapital, he and his wife have seemingly led unassuming, quiet lives. From an outsider's perspective, they seem like the kind of billionaires you could only hope to be if you ever found yourself in such financial luck. Grounded and down to earth, living in the same house for almost 40 years in a suburb of Oslo called Lorenskog. Tom drives a simple Citroën car. They are parents and grandparents. You would never look at them and think, rich people. Their house looks like any suburban Norwegian home. There's nothing flashy or noteworthy about it. No extra security surrounding either. There are no gated communities in Norway, but there are still security measures one can take and probably should take if you're that rich, and the fact that they hadn't might have been one of the reasons Anne Elizabeth was targeted. This case reads more like a Hollywood movie than an actual crime case to me, because we don't really have crime like this in Norway. The police kept the alleged kidnapping a secret until January 9th. Since then, little pieces of information have come out or developments have happened in the case, but Anne Elizabeth is still missing. The police now presume she has been killed, perhaps even on the day she disappeared. Her family, who speaks to the media through their lawyer, still holds out hope that she might be alive. I'll try to keep everything precise and easy to follow. In the end of 2018, Dagens Næringsliv, a Norwegian newspaper specializing in business news, published an article about Tom Hagen and how he had earned 174 million Norwegian krone the previous year. Police theorized that this might have kickstarted the whole operation. On October 31st, Tom Hagen leaves for work around 9 a.m. He arrives around 10 to 15 minutes later. At 9:14 a.m., Anne Elizabeth has a phone conversation with a family member. Early reports said this conversation was with her husband, Tom Hagen, but Norwegian media has since changed this to, quote, family member, unquote. Not sure why. If this phone conversation was indeed with Hagen, he must have just arrived at work. Anne Elizabeth is alone with their new puppy in their house. Only a short while later, at 9:48 a.m., electrician and neighbor Tommy Skansen calls Anne Elizabeth's cell phone. A few weeks earlier, she had asked him to switch out some light fixtures in her kitchen, and he was calling about this. She doesn't pick up. He finds it odd that she doesn't answer, as this is unlike her. More people try calling her this day, but the last anyone heard from her was at 9:14 a.m., when she either talked to her husband or some other family member. Like I said, it's unclear who this person on the phone with her was. At 1:30 p.m., Tom Hagen arrives home from work earlier than usual. He immediately notices something is off. Just inside the door, there are numerous of Anne Elizabeth's belongings laying on a chair. There's also a long letter written in broken Norwegian. On the floor, he finds a cable tie. The puppy is found locked up in a room. The letter is a ransom note demanding 9 million euros in cryptocurrency Monero. If he doesn't pay up, a video of his wife being killed will be posted online. The ransom note also says the family is being watched, and his wife's life is in danger should he contact the police. There are instructions on how to buy Monero included in the letter. 2:07 p.m., Tom Hagen contacts the police in spite of the threats in the ransom note. The police meet with him secretly in a gas station shortly after. In November, because of the threats in the letter, the police can't go out with any information regarding Anne Elizabeth's disappearance. They have to work very carefully and quietly in their home to secure evidence from the crime scene. Kripos, the National Crime Investigation Service, and Økokrim, the National Authority for Investigation and Prosecution of Economic and Environmental Crime in Norway, get involved. The police finds traces of Anne Elizabeth's blood inside the house, as well as a shoe print. It is unclear whether or not the blood was from the day of the disappearance. The amount of blood found is reportedly not unusual because she lived there, which I take it to mean it was very little. Tom Hagen continues to go to work. People describe him as unsociable and desolate during this period. Neighbors are told Anne Elizabeth is away, and family members are kept in the dark as well. At the end of November, family members are starting to feel like something is going on. Finally, they find out that Anne Elizabeth is missing, and there are talks of a kidnapping. No one is allowed to say anything. In December, the investigation is still top secret. On January 9th, the police finally allow the media to talk about the case. Norwegian media have known about it for a long time but have been told not to say anything yet. The apparent kidnapping is announced in a press conference after 10 weeks of utmost secrecy. A few days after the press conference, the police releases a video of the area around Tom Hagen's workplace. A man can be seen walking down the road next to Tom's place of work at 7:36 a.m. on the morning of the crime. He then abruptly stops and turns around to walk back the same way from where he came. 24 minutes later, another man can be seen walking down the same way. He is passed by a cyclist who has been identified. The two other men have never come forward. It has been theorized that these two men might have been a lookout of sorts. On January 16th, the family receives a new message from the person or people who claim to have Anne Elizabeth. This message is received through cryptocurrency, Bitcoin this time. I'm not quite sure how this works, but from what I've read, it's a difficult and insufficient way to communicate. January 27th. The family again is in communication with the alleged kidnappers. Some people find it curious at this point that these alleged kidnappers have been unwilling to communicate with the family during the 10 weeks of secrecy, but now that the world knows, they are willing to talk. Who is behind this exactly? Professional criminals who saw an opportunity after the article in Dagens Næringsliv was published and they realized the man in question lives completely unprotected? A family member? Enemies of Tom Hagen? Could it be Tom himself? Who would want to hurt this woman? Rumors are spreading. In February, the police advised the family not to pay the ransom unless they receive evidence of Anne Elizabeth's well-being. This is stressed in every press conference, both in Norwegian and English. The family is hopeful that the proof will now be provided, seeing as the alleged kidnappers are now willing to talk, albeit very little. However, they receive nothing. The police interview a lot of people, including business partners of Tom's. In April, after a long Norwegian winter, the police wants to search the lake right next to Tom and Anne Elizabeth's house. They employ a police dog specialized in search in water, the same dog who helped in the Kim Wall case. It's unclear whether or not they actually find anything during this search. Certainly no body or anything like that. In May, the family decides to attempt contacting the alleged kidnappers themselves. They haven't heard anything at all since January 27th. No evidence of Anne Elizabeth's well-being has been provided, and none is provided this time either. In June, the police officially changes their main hypothesis. They now believe Anne Elizabeth was murdered and not kidnapped for financial gain. They believe the ransom note, as well as any evidence found in the house, might have been staged to look like a kidnapping. More surprisingly, the police officially cancels any further search of the two men seen in the surveillance video outside of Tom Hagen's work the morning of Anne Elizabeth's disappearance. They still have not been identified, and it is unknown why the police now believes them not to be involved. On July 8th, the family lawyer, Svein Holden, receives an email from the dark web. It is written in Norwegian, and the writing style suggests that it may have been written by the same person who penned the ransom note. According to Svein Holden, this email contains information that only the perpetrator would know. The message of this email is as follows. In order to receive evidence of Anne Elizabeth's being alive, the family has to pay. It is again commented on by outsiders how odd it is that this message is received now, 5 months after the previous one, and right after the police changed their main hypothesis. Tom Hagen decides to pay 1.3 million euros in cryptocurrency. He receives nothing in return. In August, the shoe print found at the crime scene is sent for analysis to police all over Europe. German police find out that the print belongs to a shoe by the brand Sprox and is in European size 45. It is sold in Norway at Sparkjap. The police now request help from the public, and everyone who has purchased these shoes in cash is encouraged to come forward. September. The cable tie left at the crime scene has been analyzed and has been found to be produced in China and sold in Norway at Biltema. Both Biltema and Sparkup are fairly common stores in Norway. October. The police have now analyzed the paper the ransom note was written on and the envelope it came in. It was purchased at Claes Olsen, another common store in Norway. All three stores tied to this case are located in Romerike, the district in which Tom and Anne Elizabeth Hagen lived. It is closing in on a year since Anne Elizabeth disappeared without a trace. The entire country is awaiting answers. The 25th of October would have been Tom and Anne Elizabeth's golden wedding anniversary. On Thursday, the 31st, 365 days have passed since all this happened. But it is not a Halloween tale, it's real life. What happened to her? Where is she? Could she still be alive after all this time? Edited to add more information or clear up some confusing things. Some people were wondering who the last person to see her alive besides her husband was. The night before the disappearance, Tom and Anne Elizabeth were in Oslo with a couple of friends to see the Book of Mormon. They came home late. The show ended at 10:30 p.m., and they had to drive home to Lorenskog. According to Google Maps, the drive from the Norwegian Theater, which is where the show was, to Lorenskog is 22 minutes. These friends are the last ones to see her alive besides Tom and a possible perpetrator. When neighbors found out that Anne Elizabeth was possibly kidnapped, one of them came forward with information about a gray/silver SUV. He describes a car taking a weird shortcut over a patch of grass towards Tom and Anne Elizabeth's house on the morning of her disappearance. It was the police's main hypothesis for a while that she could have been kidnapped in this car. Since then, they've changed their hypothesis, but this car could still be interesting. I can't believe I forgot to add this piece of information. The police has DNA on file. It is unknown whether or not this is a partial or a full DNA profile. One man described as a witness was asked to deliver a sample. They have requested this from many people, presumably also Tom. The man described as a witness was also checked against the shoe print. As far as I can tell, he's been compliant. He had been inside their home, possibly a colleague, friend, or neighbor. Some confusion about the use of the word billionaire. It is true that Tom Hagen would not be considered a billionaire when you convert his money to US dollars. However, Tom Hagen is a Norwegian milliardaire, and milliardaire is the Norwegian word for billionaire. Being a billionaire means having at least 1 billion units of a currency. In this case, the currency is Norwegian kroner. See this link for more. International media as well as Norwegian media writing in English have also used this word, the word billionaire, in their articles about the case. I'm not saying Tom Hagen is the Norwegian Bill Gates, but I'm saying he's rich. Hope that clears things up. One user is posting comments saying that they're from the area and there are rumors about Tom Hagen being involved with someone else. While this is very juicy information and a huge motive for a possible killing, please take this information with a grain of salt, as there is no official reports on this and village rumors could be untrue anyway. If this is true, the police already know about it, and it is likely the media is also privy to this information and are choosing to withhold it by request from the police. Some confusion about this phone call the morning of the disappearance as well. The police does know who Anne Elizabeth spoke to that morning. The public, however, does not. Early reports said that this person was Tom, her husband, but this has since been changed to family member. It is unclear why this is. It could be that the first information was wrong and they had to correct themselves, or it could be that the police would prefer this information to stay secret. Of course, nothing is deleted on the internet, and you can still find articles in Norwegian saying the person on the phone was Tom. Continuing from that, Norwegian media is very good at respecting the police, and should they request this from them, the media would comply. This is why I believe it's possible that they are hiding information about a possible motive on the husband's part. They have no interest in ruining police work. The media is generally well regarded in Norway and have ethical guidelines to follow. A lot of questions about why didn't he just pay the ransom? He must be the perpetrator, or he would have paid the ransom immediately. Well, no, it's not that simple. In a ransom case like this one, police strongly advise against paying. If you pay, you have nothing left to negotiate with. If Anne Elizabeth was even still alive at this point, what's to say they'll let her go once the ransom has been paid? It has been implied by the family lawyer that the family would have been willing to pay if the alleged kidnappers showed them evidence of Anne Elizabeth being alive in form of photos or a video or something to that effect. It's a risky move, paying a ransom. On one hand, you're worried about your family member and you want them back, and you'd be willing to pay anything in order to do so. On the other hand, you're scared what might happen once you pay. There's no easy way to deal with a situation like this. I'll continue to update if I see common questions or if there's anything else I remember. Comments. Nothing makes sense about this, especially keeping her alive somewhere for weeks on end before finally contacting someone about the ransom. Which is why the police now believe she was killed almost immediately, maybe on the same day. It makes no sense for kidnappers to keep this woman alive for so long and not provide any evidence if they really want the money. Going by what the lawyer has implied, the family has been willing to pay if they knew she was okay. Tom Hagen did end up paying a percentage of what was asked in order to get some sort of evidence that his wife is okay, but it's been radio silence ever since. This is a very well done write-up. I hope you do more. I think the husband is an easy suspect, but what's the motive? And a call to make sure she was home doesn't make much sense to me, since he was just at home 10 minutes earlier. There's more to this, and I don't think it's a marital thing. Apparently, Tom Hagen was a witness in a kidnapping case in 2005. There's a link in Norwegian. A man was pulled into a car after a night out. He managed to escape and ran into Tom and Anne Elizabeth's house. 3 people were sentenced in the case, and Tom was a witness. I remember reading there was someone else in the house at the time of the disappearance. Maybe a lodger. He was asked to submit DNA just the other week. OP replies, "Oops, clearly this is something I should have included in my write-up. It completely escaped me for some reason. Here's what I found. The police have DNA. Unclear if this is a full profile or partial. They have had a few people in to leave a sample. A man considered a witness was asked to provide one. This witness was also involved with shoe print evidence. As far as I can tell, he's been compliant. I do not believe this man was some type of lodger. Do you have a source on this? He had been in their home, though." No, you're right. Seems he was just someone who was around the house a lot, but not actually staying there permanently. Finally, a mystery where I can contribute. I'm from the area, dated one of their neighbors, went to the secondary school near their house, walked past there a couple weeks ago, you name it. Ask me anything? Some gossip that would be unavailable to locals. A. Apparently, Tom was divorcing his wife when she disappeared and is currently dating someone, starting only weeks after her disappearance, whilst his wife is still technically missing. So tons of people have been saying he arranged to have Anne kidnapped. B. One of my relatives is a local business owner, and apparently Tom is known for being extremely stingy, not only in his personal life, but also when doing business, causing some bad blood. Apparently, he won't pay invoices or bills until long past their due date, cutting corners, etc. So, what's your theory on what happened to Anne Elizabeth Hagen? Post it in the comments below. Thank you for listening. You can find the original post in Our Unresolved Mysteries through the link in the description box below. I like being able to listen to posts when I'm busy doing something else and can't read them. So I made this video for anyone who wants to listen to their Reddit posts. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and don't forget to hit the subscribe button below to get more puzzling mysteries.